If you live in the UK, you'll know that, sadly, you don't have to walk very far to come across a boarded-up pub. In the past few years following the COVID-19 pandemic, the rate of pub closures has accelerated, driven by the cost of living crisis, higher rents, and a slowdown in socialising. In fact, at the end of 2024, the total number of pubs across England and Wales had fallen below 39,000 for the first time since records began, with at least 34 pubs shutting every month in 2024 on average. That's more than one per day. Already in the first 3 months of 2025, according to the Campaign for Real Ale, 303 pubs across England, Scotland and Wales have shut, with this number expected to rise further due to changes to the government's budget effective from April. It's not just pubs either. Brewers, cafes, local nightclubs and restaurants are all suffering from the crisis facing the UK's hospitality industry. So, in this video, we'll take a look at the UK's pubs crisis, why it's getting worse, and whether they can be saved. If you want more UK political drama from us, check out our podcast Starmageddon, where we track the successes and failures of this new Labour government. Find it over on the TLDR Podcast's YouTube channel or in your favourite podcast app. First though, let's start with some historical context. Pubs have existed in the UK for hundreds of years, since at least the 17th century, when so-called coaching inns acted as hubs for travellers and locals, providing food, drink and accommodation. Then in 1830, the Beer House Act, which was repealed in 1993, made beer cheaper and more accessible, effectively allowing anyone with a dwelling to sell alcohol as long as they paid an annual licence. This resulted in tens of thousands of new establishments, particularly in the rapidly industrialising north of England, with many pubs choosing to honour William IV, the governing monarch at the time, in their name. For the past 200 or so years, pubs have been a central part of British culture, representing the history and identity of local villages, towns and cities. British pubs are renowned across the world for their iconic naming practices, their painted signs, often featuring heraldic imagery like coats of arms, and also their cosy interiors, including wood panelling, timber ceilings, leather sofas with brass details, bar stools, and various historical maps, sketches and photos of the local area often adorning the walls. However, in recent decades, a pubs crisis has emerged. According to a 2014 report by the Institute of Economic Affairs, in 1969 there were approximately 75,000 pubs in the UK, but by 1980 this had fallen to 69,000, by 2003 to under 60,000, and by 2013 to under 48,000. As we mentioned earlier, today in England and Wales that number sits below 39,000, and will likely continue falling. Pubs have largely suffered because of competition from supermarkets, which can sell alcohol much more cheaply than pubs, because they can squeeze brewers' margins and also sell alcohol at a loss to attract customers. In fact, while the price of beer at a pub or bar has risen significantly faster than inflation in recent decades, the price of beer off sales, i.e. from supermarkets and off licenses, has risen more slowly than inflation. This has caused pint prices to soar. In 1987, the average pint at a UK pub cost just 92p, but by 2024 it had surged to a national average of £4.79. It's even higher in the capital, at £5.59, apparently, although as a London-based office we're pretty sure it's higher than this. Anyway, this has all contributed to fewer people being able to afford a pub trip, and fewer customers increases financial pressure on pubs. The pubs crisis was also exacerbated by the pandemic. Pubs were forced to close for months under strict social distancing rules, with some failing to reopen at all. While some pubs managed to get around the rules by serving a substantial meal with their alcohol, even if that was just a Scotch egg, social trends changed as people got used to staying at home and not going out to socialise at the pub. Then in 2022, as energy costs and inflation soared after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, already struggling pubs were further hit, and fewer people could afford paying for a pint, leading to hundreds of pubs closing permanently. This trend continued throughout 2023 and 2024. In February this year, businessman Sacha Lord, Greater Manchester's former nighttime economy advisor who originally endorsed Labour's campaign, wrote a letter to UK Chancellor Rachel Reeves, arguing that he was reconsidering his position as the hospitality sector faces, quote, irreversible damage. He also claimed the government's 2025-26 budget will cripple businesses across the sector, and that its new tax implications will push many small and independent operators to breaking point. A quick online search shows a series of recent local newspaper stories about pub closures, with publicans increasingly concerned about rising costs, including higher employer national insurance contributions and a rise in the national minimum wage. As a result, some pubs are closing early, while others are closing down. So the big question is this a death sentence for British pubs, or can they be saved? Well, one thing that could potentially help is the UK government's planned reforms to the business rate system, which we'll come back to in a moment. But right now, pubs are facing a significant decline in financial support from the government, with Reeves having cut the rate of business relief for the hospitality sector from 75% to 40% in the 2025-26 budget. This means that, as of the 1st of April, retail, hospitality and leisure businesses, like pubs, in properties with a rateable value, i.e. an estimated worth, of under £500,000 can get 40%, rather than the previous 75%, off their business rates bills for the 2025-26 tax year, up to a £110,000 cap. However, the government says this is a temporary measure until 2026-27, when they plan to permanently lower tax rates for hospitality properties. This will likely be funded by a higher multiplier on businesses worth over £500,000, including most large infrastructure businesses and warehouses, like those used by online distributors, in line with Labour's manifesto pledge to support the high street. For context, their 2024 election manifesto said that the current business rate system places an undue burden on our high streets and contains a pledge to reform it to level the playing field between the high street and online giants, better incentivise investment, tackle empty properties, and support entrepreneurship. This would hopefully mean lower tax rates for pubs, supported by higher rates on big online warehouses, although it could also affect big anchor tenant businesses worth over £500,000 in town centres, like bigger pubs or those in highly valued historical buildings. But it's unclear whether these future changes to the UK's business rate system will come quick enough to save local pubs. There are other societal trends, including young people going out less, a fall in alcohol consumption, rapid urbanisation, and a shift towards non-alcohol-based activities, plus people generally spending more time alone and online, which are also putting community strongholds like pubs at risk of closure. So, if we want to save them, it might take more than just the government. If you can, maybe consider spending a bit of time in your local this Easter weekend, and help preserve an important part of the community, at least for a bit longer. Regardless, in 2025, one thing is certain. We can expect the news cycle to continue being dominated by these same major figures. But who's the most influential? In the most recent edition of our magazine, Too Long, we find out. That's because this 72-page issue runs down our official ranking of the world's most influential people, a vote which saw the TLDR team and more than 15,000 of you casting ballots. In the magazine, you'll learn the entire ranking. Plus, we've written articles about all of the top 25, discussing how they wield their influence and how they interact with and shape our world. That includes Modi's struggles in South India, how Elon Musk took over, Giorgia Meloni's battles with the Italian judiciary, and Trump's monumental comeback story. Also, if you want to dive even deeper, the premium edition of the magazine also gets you access to bonus videos. This includes the team debating their ranking of the top 25, with it getting pretty heated at times.
We could potentially have a monumental jump on our hands.
Yeah.
Hands up for leapfrogging into sixth.
The most powerful European country, the second biggest economy, the nuclear power that is... The nuclear power!
Yeah.
We also recorded the team reacting to the audience's rankings, so you can find out what they really think about your votes. It's not just about the most influential people either. Too Long also contains articles about the current state of the UK, the new right in Europe, and if peace can really hold in Gaza, along with a whole variety of other stories. Too Long truly is some of our very best journalism, with the audience consistently saying that previous issues vastly outstripped their expectations. So if you want a copy too, head over to toolong.news to pick one up. And if you never want to miss an issue, you can also subscribe, which also gets you a 20% discount on every issue as long as you stay a subscriber. Plus, for just this week, if you use the code INFLUENCE, you'll get an additional £3 off any subscription. Too Long helps to fund our journalism all year round and allows us to keep all of our YouTube videos free, so we really do appreciate your support.